Do you know 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail to meet objectives? This failure rate costs organizations over $2 trillion per year. Most projects collapse because of execution gaps and cultural resistance. Here comes Yi Lim. He bridges the gap between high-level strategy and operational execution. He leads digital transformation and AI growth initiatives across private equity and consulting. He manages complex merger and acquisition transactions and modernizes enterprise platforms. Yi joins the show today to share his discipline for turning strategy into scalable impact. Our conversation focuses on driving value creation in the digital age. Let's welcome our today's guest, Yi Lim, and my co-host, Jaslyn Q. Welcome, Yi. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure is mine.
Hey, Jazz. Welcome back.
Thanks, Nash.
Hey.
Hi, Hongi.
Okay, Yi. Talking about digital experience and your experience in the space with this latest AI technologies and transformation, everyone is doing experiments. Everyone is trying to catch up in the race to being AI enabled, run the processes, grow on this race. Why do you think digital experiences fail to scale when it is so important? It sounds so good, and there are businesses even have a lot of experiences into that. Personalization and experimentation is not a new term anymore. It's been a couple decades old now. Why do you think companies are still failing to scale?
That's a very interesting question. But more importantly, when I'm looking at all this digital transformation, from pilot to what you call scale, right? Yeah, the fundamental is that these are two different concepts. Yeah, at least in my opinion. Yeah, and I see that across different industry, from manufacturing to financial institutions to big institution or even small setup, the same patterns appear again and again. People will always think about pilot as pilot, but in order for pilot to evolve or to scale, the first thing that normally comes to my mind is the ownership beyond the pilot champion. I think setting out the pilot is not difficult. Everybody knows, okay, yeah, create a team and then we'll do brainstorming, we'll think about this, think about that. Yeah, set objective and to do that. But often than not, people always forget, what is the ownership beyond the pilot program. So for example, right, when it's time to scale, nobody has the mandate to own the solution anymore. You can see the patterns whereby people always go back to their business as usual. Because if let's say they are the innovation manager in a big organization, they go to a new idea and start piloting. And then when they are, let's say, the owner or chief of marketing, for example, right, they'll go back to their business or enterprise level KPIs that is being set. And then the pilot eventually, a lot of all these ideas were just, okay, no more ownership, beyond the champion. Secondly, another thing that's important is that it requires cross-functional buy-in. If you take, for example, I mentioned just now, you have an innovation manager take care of a project, or you have a project manager take care of that. Once you want to scale, goes back to the same thing, there's no champion. And that's also one of the reasons why a lot of digital pilots fail to scale. If I were to think about that, most digital pilots don't fail because the idea is bad. They fail because the organization is structured properly, underestimate the operation readiness to adopt and also to scale the idea, because they lack what I call scaling blueprint. Right, they know how to operate, let's say, an innovation center. They know to operate R&D, Scrum team. If you go into IT, they know how to do project management. Often than not, you don't hear people talk about this term called dynamic scaling blueprint. So that becomes alien, that becomes afterthought. And then that's the reason why a lot of digital pilots that I see don't really take off.
That's
but
right.
From your experience, from both of your experience, what do you actually see?
Absolutely. The champion's ownership beyond personalization, beyond experiments is missing at most of places. And also, as you mentioned, cross team buy-in from the culture perspective. Yeah, these are right. But do you also think technology, the back end of the technical ecosystem, the digital stack, is also necessary to scale, and there is where investments and a lot of funding is required, enough tools, enough like teams to scale as well, right? Like people running pilot is a small set of teams as well, because it's an executive team created just to run the pilot, but to scale there are more resources required, not in terms of capability to run it at scale. So any thoughts, like you've been working with organizations for a long time, from startups to big giant organizations, to run it at scale. Other than cultural problem like funding, technology, and even like recruitment, where else do you see companies should not ignore their angles to keep data into experimentation?
I think this is also another good question. And from what I have seen across different organizations, is actually the leadership and conviction. So when I say leadership, is that does the leader has experience, right? Bring from
That's a good one.
zero to
That's a common
yeah,
problem I have seen across the board as well. True.
yeah, yeah. But to put it very simply across the board, right? As have that person has experience or able to articulate what is the difference between bring from 0 to 100. I think in any interview process, people will ask, oh, do you have experience bring from 0 to 1? But in fact, you need someone with the mindset, the idea in a leadership team to think, okay, what is 0 to 100? I don't believe that scaling is a very linear process, right? In fact, it's an exponential process. And the thing is that often than not, people forget about quite a number of things, including the most fundamental part, like what you talk about technology. You don't think like, okay, you want to sell, let's say, for example, iPhone 16 to iPhone 17. Yeah. As a leader or a visionary product manager driving, scale, right? From pilot to scale, you have to think about like what you mentioned, technology, right? What is the difference between, let's say, 125, what's the implication between a 125 gig versus a 256 gig iPhone? Yeah, things like that, because it is not linear, you see, it's exponential. So it's again it's a mindset thing, and whether leaders has that broad thinking or a very distinct thinking per se.
Do you kind of sort of like observe, because usually whoever is sponsoring that project, suddenly they have this big idea, and that's why they wanted to sponsor in the first place, to have a pilot, to test out something. More often than not, maybe it came from the board wanting to do something for shareholder, for pricing and things like that, right? But then that doesn't mean the sponsor has that necessary experience. So I mean, I've observed that personally. So for such a case, it's quite common, right? So then, what would you advise? Companies approach it for such cases.
I think more importantly, I three things, right? If I were to advise them, one is really on the conviction or what we call the operating model. What we discussed just now, it's not about having an innovation team. Then after that, the bigger organizations is still the same. You have the marketing manager, you have the IT manager. Everybody looks at it differently. You need an operating model such that you do not require any change management per se. It's just a very interesting thought process that I was reflecting over the last few days as well. Because you need to fundamentally restructure the entire operating model, and this is based on one of the experience that I have with one of the most successful transformation organization. I mean, it's actually DBS. I had a privilege being part of the transformation team to come up with what they call the Gandalf Project. So that is number one. And then secondly, again, is a leadership mindset shift. Like what Jess was saying, a lot of times all these pilots, they stem or it comes from fixing a system problem, or no, fixing a what I call the local inefficiency. So they come up with a use case and say, hey, look, yeah, can we come up with a solution, a technology solution to actually fix this problem ABC? But back to the point, if the broader system is still broken, for example, right, incentive is misaligned, role definition is unclear, priority is conflicting, and organization barriers not looked into. Yeah, these are some of the reasons why pilot will forever stay as pilot. Yeah, and then it's hard to scale because the broader system, right, is not structured in a way to allow pilot to scale or to fix a systemic problem. So instead of coming out with use case, which is very common, right, and that's a very textbook way of thinking about innovation and digital transformation or entrepreneurship per se. Yeah, but if you take a step back, yeah, then you look at some of the scaling blueprint. Yeah, you realize that, hey, look, yeah, you're not getting from 1 to 2 first to prove something and then get it done. In fact, you are trying to design a system such that it moves from 1 to 100, yeah, in a very natural way or in a BAU way, which means that, hey, look, yeah, you need to set your enterprise KPIs or ROIs that people always think about. Then instead of having the current structure, or you have a IT manager, you have a innovation manager, you have a marketing manager and things like that. How about if let's say it's an AI project, then you have a chief AI officer. For example, chief AI officer will be the one whose day job, not he doesn't do change management. His day job is to make sure that like all this AI is running as a business as usual kind of operations. Yeah, not sure if you both of you have seen like such things or you see something differently as well.
You brought up a good point about metrics, KPIs as well. Talking about that, like, what is that one like top recommendation that you want to suggest here to audiences, like from successful pilot to experimentation at scale? Should measurement criteria to change as well for success? Let's say with pilot, you get X percentage of growth in your web traffic, for example, through leveraging personalization of content. When you go at scale, like what expectations should change as well? What is your top recommendation here to still measuring success at scale compared to the successful pilot?
Typically, what I would do with my client is to ask them to take a step back first. And like what we discussed so far, you need to be very clear. So if you want to scale from day one, suggest them not to have pilot KPIs. Yeah, immediately go for enterprise success or business KPI. For example, right? If you talk about user adoption, you should have a stronger conviction as, hey, look, this to improve, let's say, a user experience per se, it should link and tie back to your P&L, your profit and loss, or your EBITDA contribution, etc. Not to set up a pilot project first, because once you set out the pilot projects first, then often than not, people give themselves a reason that, project is not successful. Yeah, this is a pilot project, and by the way, we agree that this is the KPI, and therefore that person who should have the ownership gets get out of jail card for free. So that itself already set yourself up not for success. And then when we talk about the other dimension that I can talk about is actually capital allocation, right? From the idea that, why not, let's try, right? We see these particular small problems in, let's say, the marketing department. Yeah. And then this is where they want to solve. No. Yeah, why not we take a step back? Yeah, instead of that, let's think about the business or enterprise KPI first for that. And then start thinking of it from a strategic and multi-years planning rather than a project base. Yeah. This again, is a good testament to what some of the successful organization has done. Because in reality, and in my opinion, scaling is usually about 50 times more capital intensive than the pilot. So if someone doesn't have the appetite, it just signal that down the road, right, or after the project, you will not be thinking of scaling. If you want to think of scaling or you want to make it like a business as usual, that has to be upfront. Instead of
That's
because
a good point.
spending, let's say, 100K, right, versus spending 5 million, on something. Definitely you'll get that
Yes,
work. And then
absolutely.
that also talk about, let's say, the team structure. Another interesting analogy that I can make is that, if you want to scale or you want to improve the team, would you get like the nurses to become the doctor? Or you will go out and hire a doctor that has experience? So everybody thought about, okay, let's upscale, let's do this and that. If you don't really have the minds, you don't have the skill set, to be very honest, most of the time, it
That's a
takes
good
very
analogy.
long. As leaders, right, if you are very convicted by the idea of, hey, look, you're not here for experiment, you're not here for pilot, you need to be prepared for that magnitude of scaling and that whole appetite to that. And then you will realize that when it comes to culture or like what we talk about leadership, down to execution discipline, or it comes to scaling. Sorry, it's not pilot, it comes to scaling. How would you make something repeatable, accountable, and also become norms driven? And that's again a startup, a tech startup can be successful because it is norm driven, and there's no excuses when things goes down, or rather it's not the mindset that, oh, you fail fast, you learn faster, and then after you carry on. No, because you'll keep repeating the same mistake if, let's say, you don't have the right mindset. Disciplined leaders or execution, is that they plan for plan B, plan C, plan D, and then they stick with that. It's not that, okay, now, we face a roadblock or something, then let's call, let's say, a task force or a project steering committee to make decision for this and that. Because those ad hoc thing, will divert away you from the North Star that you have in the first place.
I mean, you talk a lot about the capital allocation, which is interesting. But then, it makes it sounds really expensive to scale. And I mean, I do think that, of course, scaling requires more than just, throwing out money. So there has to be some sort of discipline, right? To make sure that it's not just money going down the drain as you scale, because we can't afford to fail too many times as well. So what would be more like your practical advice for some of the leaders? What does it look like when it comes to such discipline, in put in practice?
If the leader is my close friend, first of all, it requires a bit of a mindset shift.
Mm.
In the sense that scaling is not expensive, but it's really the prerequisite. If you want to do something well, it's the same thing. Like if you want to do, like, let's say, a triathlon, right? The prerequisite is that you need to put in effort and you need to have discipline, right? Because I mean, I'm also, I come from a finance background. The quantum is not cheap or expensive. Because easily, if you have a good idea, you know how to structure, you know the financial system, you are able to, let's say, get a 5 million for just a pre-seed round, right? Because it's structure and mechanism. But to your point, right, if you're going to do, let's say, a 5 million or even 10 million startup, what I will look at the strategic discipline, 6 things, right? Whether the leadership team will have, or they have that kind of values or code. Number 1, right? There's a clear yes or no rules, right? There's no maybe. So if it's a yes, it's yes. If it's a no, it's no. When you start having like, okay, maybe we can do this, maybe it's a very slippery slope. Secondly,
Clarity is important.
one single owner at the end, right? You can't say, oh, because let's say, I'm the IT, so I look at this, I'm the security, I look at that. No. Yeah, one person, which is the CEO or whoever, the one single person will own the decision. Yeah. Voting and democracy doesn't help, but really interesting conversation from different background, like the security officer, right? Chief security officer, Okay, then it makes sense. But end of the day, one person make decision. To me, standardization, you need to standardize, even when it hurts, right?
Hmm.
People always give themselves leeway, especially when people do like innovation. Oh, let me try this first, let me try that first. Because no one loves to give up like their local variation, right? For example, everybody have their own pride. If you are, I don't know, a Python developer, you will use Python because you're comfortable with that. And it hurts when you standardize. No, there's only one code, one workflow, one taxonomy. The way I normally do that is, okay, fine, we understand, but a local variation has to end on X date, for example. You need to set a deadline so that people can work towards that. And then back to the same thing, ruthless prioritization. Especially what not to do. If you have all this maybe, or okay, let's do A, B, C, then you have D, E as backup. No, so you have to be very ruthless when it comes to that. We only do one, we do one. When we talk about leadership, again, whether do they have the courage, to be able to see what is the long-term gain, rather than, we just do a pilot. That's number one, the vision. You need to have a visionary leader if you want to scale. If not, you can just be an innovation manager or things like that. And also, secondly, you need to have the courage, right, to absorb some of the short-term pain for all the long-term gain. Because I think I mentioned previously, disciplined leaders don't really panic, right? But they plan for the dip and they don't really react to that. So in order to do that, really, you need two things, right? You need to have the vision and also you need to have the courage. Without that, it's hard to achieve the scale that typically people dream of.
Cost factor is one of the challenges for small businesses. And you have helped founder-led entrepreneurs also. Those organizations, if want to take a step on experimentation, what are those small or like cost-effective tools available, if you can name a few, for small businesses to try as well? Adobe ecosystem is very expensive to afford for small businesses. For personalization, if like to run A/B testing on a website between two images, what tools can you suggest in that case? Adobe Target is gonna be like a couple $100,000 per year.
I think the cheapest tool, is the founder or the leader themselves. Let me unpack that statement a bit more. If you understand, the market or the consumer behavior, you do not need to sit behind a laptop or whatsoever to do things. I mean, to have, let's say, a system to do that. You can do, I'm happy to talk, right, from a technology standpoint, right? Why do you need to be on cloud when your first product to get it work can be an on-prem solution? So in fact, right, when it comes to factories, advanced manufacturing, a lot of their data is not on cloud. It's all still on-prem, because that is one of the cheapest and safest option, or I wouldn't call it. It's actually a more practical option for them, right? So to a certain point, if let's say, you take a step back and understand the fundamental or the economics of stuff and compare three different codes or three different solutions on the table, you will, and you take time, right? You will realize that, yes, everybody is moving towards cloud. For example, everybody is using these particular tools. For example, is it necessary to use that tools to get what you need? But obviously, I'm not saying that, there's no room to play for tools. There's room to play for tools when it becomes a norm, right? And that's how pilot project becomes successful as well, you design it such that it becomes a norm, right? It's not that, okay, yeah, let's design this because for just one small reason. Yeah, that's how I think about that. But when it comes to tools, yeah, it's also the way I think about it is also the question in terms of buy and build, right? In big organizations, yeah, why do you want to buy a particular tools, yeah, and not build one? IT will always recommend to build, yeah, because that's where they get excited. Oh, I can create the new, yeah, tools for, let's say, yeah, A/B testing, yeah, in your field, right? That's IT. Always, yeah, the default answer is let's build. And then they will find reasons, yeah, to justify why build then buy, right? Oh, can be very difficult, can be that and all. And even and if we move the question down to startup, right? Yeah. Why do you want to create a product? This is something that I can share as well, right? I think just know about when I created a AI technology company that does, people call it digital twin. I call it digital twin as well because it's easier for people to understand. But in fact, you take a step back, right? For that to be successful, it is not digital twin that I'm thinking of, but it's simulation. Because when you start talking about, okay, I can build a software or tools for manufacturing, right? Or you don't have to go down to the floor. You can look at, you have a digital factory and then you can do certain things with that. Yeah, I think, right, that tends to be quite a slippery slope to think of it as digital twin. Because if you ask me what is a digital twin, a digital twin is really a simulation of either a physical product, right? Like let's say car manufacturers, when you build engine, or Boeing, they have a digital twin of, let's say, the exhaust or the engine. Yeah, so that, for manufacturing, it could be a digital twin of a process, right? You play, let's say, games like Township and all. Yeah, how do you do that? Okay, you simulate. Okay, you put 2 in, you take 3 out. That's also a digital twin of a process. And then after that, a digital twin of the universe, which is a metaverse. But then you realize, hey, look, metaverse is not taking off as much as, let's say, VR or even generative AI, right? Then the question is why? Yeah, because if you think about, it will be easier to have a digital twin for a factory so that you don't need to go down to the floor and really understand what is going on. Yeah, you buy this tool or you build this tool, or you have this tool, or even from the other side of the table, I'm trying to sell you that idea whereby, okay, you have, now you by a click of a buttons, you can get things done. In fact, that's not the whole idea. The real idea, and I think, I got it right, is that before, okay, let's take a step back, some theoretical stuff as well. Digital thing the idea comes, it becomes popular in 1997. Yeah. But if you trace back some of the history, it's actually NASA that came up with this entire idea of simulation, right? And that's why I don't call it digital twin, I call it simulation. Because, what you want to do is you have a use case or whatsoever, it's simulation. How do you test? How do you come up with product development and all? So, back, it's a very long and different dimension answering your question whereby, is there any tools? Not really. Yeah. More importantly, you just need to know the fundamental and basic, right, of
That's right.
what you want to achieve. Like for example, testing. You need to know your target market, your consumer first, before you come out with something experienced. Right. If you want to come out with, you want to buy a product for A/B testing, more importantly, how does it affect your business or enterprise metric? Not just to solve, let's say, a pilot KPI. Yeah. So those are the things that we were talking about. Yeah, all along. But I just trying to put together, and end of the day, it's really the leadership, the mindset that guides you, and that's what I think differentiate a experienced consultant or really have gone through the whole idea. Oh no, 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2, and then linear movement.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense from the decision making perspective. But again, as you mentioned in the beginning, it is not just one team's decision. Like cross team buy-in requires And at times when it's get too political in the organization, because everyone wants to take credit, there are a lot of reasons that who want to drive it, and you also mentioned ownership is missing, or more than one members in the organization want to become the owner, and there are conflicts, there is resistance. Sometimes the counter authorities challenge like how the experiment was run. For example, let me give an example here. Very small test, but big impact of that test. If an organization is deciding the brand color between, like in this AI world, those neon colors are very popular, like purple and flashy yellow and combination of green and all those, right? Versus old subtle corporate style gray, dark red, dark blue, and these kind of colors. Let's say a company is trying to rediscover their brand and they want to run an experiment on the color. Okay, how audience engages with them if the color changes. Let's say for a classy elderly retirement plan related organization have a purple color winner on the experiment. Okay, but it doesn't fits well in the sentiments of the customer base of that business already. So we already see a conflict of a winner on the experiment versus the brand perception of that organization. So data says uh, purple wins. Okay, but brand perception doesn't have that kind of flashy perception in the industry. Okay, the brand is for elderly citizens. So in that situation, there are a lot of conflicts that arise in the organization, and I just came up with this example on the fly, right? But in this situation, um, should we rely on data-driven results? Some could challenge, hey, what is your sample to run this experiment against? Okay, are those the right audiences? And if those, and who they are, where is that data supporting baseline to reveal that result? Versus uh, at majority still agree with like blue or red is a better brand color than purple or yellow. Okay. So in that case, what do you think, like how this situation can be handled? Like this is a culture shift and resistance internally, at all levels. But data says something else. In this situation, like how can this position be navigated and be decided here?
I have a very unconventional way to answer this question because, yes, every time, you hear that, okay, whether we trust the data or, we trust our gut feel and all. But the way I do that, right, and I can justify it also, right? The way I do that, let's go to the way I typically do that is that I will not carry on with the discussion. I will move the whole discussion to, okay, how should we even shut down the old way of working, right? For example, you say clearly purple is not working at this moment because we assume that there's an idea or there's something, either data or based on people's experience, a glitter thing will work better. So, okay, let's not talk about that because data can be wrong as well. If data is correct, all the investment analysts or investment banker, know where to place all their bets. They are the one of the biggest data driven. Doctors, for example, right? They based on statistic and all, they think that they're almost right, but sometimes they cannot really predict, right, the end results. So take a step back and to diffuse the conflict, my way of managing people will be, okay, shall we think of a way to first shut down the way of working? Because from there, you bring everybody back to the same idea, and then this is where people will not create a defensive barrier and start accepting information or even data points from one another. And that to me, is the human ingenuity. And that's
Please.
one of I have done that before, but it's not very conventional. When I start having that, people will just, oh, you sure? Talk about, okay, whether data is correct, or anybody is right. But which is very important, right? How do you even shut down the old way of working, right? Because clearly everybody, regardless of whether conflict or whatsoever, they want to move forward. Then you can have like option C or D. Oh, maybe, yeah, we need to bring an expert. Yeah. Then that's where it becomes easier for experts to come in as well. And then expert can do the day job that people don't like. And yeah, you have a happy family. And end of the day, hopefully it translates to results.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation, Hongui. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean the data thing, right? For my case, it's always regardless of what the data says. Sometimes just the CEO wants it that way. I
Yeah.
don't know whether it's right or wrong.
I think it's not wrong. Yeah, everybody wants. I mean, I always give people the benefit of doubt, right? They whether they're hired or not, yeah, they want the best outcome for themselves or for the organization. But why not put people together to their differences, to put away their differences and work towards a common goal first? Yeah, from there you really build a high performing team. Then from there, then you can have an open discussion whether the quality of the data does it make sense or not. Then you can start challenging it, yeah, in a meaningful way or a valuable way rather than once there's a defensive mechanism out, yeah, people will just defend it as much as possible, and they'll find ways, data, yeah, everything, yeah, to wrap around that to protect themselves.
All right. Thanks, Hangi. Thank you for your great insights, valuable inputs, and wonderful conversation.
Pleasure is mine. Yeah, thanks for having me, especially during this period of time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Nev.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
And that's a wrap on this episode. We hope you are walking away with at least one battle-tested strategy you can apply to your own digital journey today. This show is built for leaders like you who are tired of the fluff and ready for real solutions. If you found value in this discussion today, please subscribe to the channel and leave us a review. It helps us bring more world-class leaders to the table. Also, feel free to share this episode with a colleague who is navigating these same digital trenches. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.